Alright, it's almost 4 o'clock. Got a couple of minutes. It was daylight savings, so it's actually old time 5 o'clock. But, so I was trying out, instead of sleeping in an extra hour today, I was trying to see if I could shift my routine an hour earlier, just to see what would happen. I'm not quite sure what will happen. It might be too exhausting. But we'll see if this helps me do my miracle morning with a toddler. So yeah, let's try it at 4 a.m. instead of 5, because I was kind of sick of having to half-ass my miracle morning every morning. So we'll see if this is an effective strategy. So yeah, I haven't even washed my face or brushed my teeth yet, so I'll get right to that. And then start with some yoga, because my back still hurts. So I think I'm going to do kettlebell maybe once or twice a week. So anyway, let's get to it. It is now 5 o'clock. I've done my exercise. I even added, I'm going to link the 30-day yoga challenge I'm doing down below, so you guys have access to that. It's pretty easy. It starts out with 20 minutes of morning yoga, so it's perfect. And then I've done my meditation, and I did my affirmations. Now I'm going to do my reading for myself, which is the cash flow quadrant. And then when I get to the office, I'll be reading, is it the last chapter or second to last chapter in the Rich Dad Poor Dad book? What else? Then I'll do my visualizations, because I'm not quite sure what my day is going to have in store for me, because I gotta call the county and do some other stuff, but not quite sure yet. And then what else is there? Scribing. I'm gonna try to scribe at the office, because scribing here is kind of a pain in the butt, because I'm gonna go get interrupted the moment I start. So I'm gonna read a little bit in silence, make a cup of coffee, and then wait for everybody else to wake up here in probably the next 20 minutes to half an hour. Yeah. Okay, so I've been reading the Rich Dad's Cash Flow Quadrant. And since I'm not reading this book for you guys, I just wanted to pull out this excerpt. And it goes like this. When someone asks me, what do I have to do to move from the left side of the cash flow quadrant to the right side? So the left side is being an employee or being self-employed, to either big business, so you're running the business, or an investor. That's what the left versus the right is. My response is, it is not what you have to do that needs to change. It's first how you think that needs to change. In other words, it's who you have to be in order to do what needs to be done. Do you want to be the kind of person who thinks buying 4 green houses and turning them in for 1 red hotel is easy? Or do you want to be the kind of person who thinks buying 4 green houses and turning them in for 1 red hotel is hard? Years ago, I took a class in goal setting. It was the mid-1970s, and I could really not believe I was spending $150 on a beautiful Saturday and Sunday learning how to set goals. I would rather have gone surfing. Instead, I was paying someone to teach me how to set goals. I nearly backed out several times, but what I've learned from that class has helped me achieve what I want in life. The instructor put up on the board these 3 words: be, do, have. She explained goals are the have part of these 3 words. Goals, such as to have a nice body, or to have the perfect relationship, or have millions of dollars. Once most people figure out their goal and what they want to have, they begin listing what they have to do in order to achieve the goal. That's why most people have to-do lists. They set their goals and then begin doing. Using the goal of a perfect body, the instructor talked about the approach most people take. What most people do when they want a perfect body is to go on a diet and go to the gym. This lasts a few weeks, and then most are back to their old diet of french fries and pizza. Instead of going to the gym, they watch baseball on TV. This is an example of doing instead of being. It's not the diet that counts. It's who you have to be to follow the diet that counts. Yet every year, millions of people seek the perfect diet in order to become thin. They focus on what they have to do rather than who they have to be. A diet won't help if your thoughts do not change. Choose golf as another example. Many people buy a new set of golf clubs hoping that they can improve their game instead of first adopting the attitude, mindset, and beliefs of a good golfer. A lousy golfer with a new set of golf clubs is still a lousy golfer. Then she discussed investments. Many people think that buying stocks or mutual funds will make them rich, but simply buying stocks or mutual funds or real estate and bonds won't make you rich. Just doing what professional investors do does not guarantee financial success. A person who has a loser mentality will always lose no matter what stock, bond, real estate, or mutual fund they buy. A common goal people have is to find a perfect romantic partner, but according to the instructor, most people go about it all wrong. So many people look everywhere for the perfect person, the person of their dreams. They look for the right person instead of working to become the right person. And I guess this is what I was talking about. Would you rather have Tony Robbins as a friend, or would you rather be Tony Robbins, right? And then they finally find this perfect person, and they try to change them. The instructor suggested that the answer lies within. To improve your marriage, you don't need to change your partner. It is better to change yourself first. Don't work on the other person. Work on your thoughts about that other person. She talked about relationships, and mine drifted to the many people I've met over the years who were out to change the world, but weren't getting anywhere. They wanted to change everyone else, but not change themselves. And then I really like this last part. I snapped out of my daydream when she started talking about money. When it comes to money, many people try to do what the rich do, and to have what the rich have. So they buy a house that looks rich, a car that looks rich, and send their kids to a school where the rich send their kids. All this does is force these people to work even harder, which is not what the truly rich do. I was nodding my head in agreement in the back of the room. My rich dad did not use those same words, but he often said people think that working hard for money and then buying things that make them look rich will make them rich. In most cases it doesn't. It only makes them more tired. They call it keeping up with the Joneses. And if you notice, the Joneses are exhausted. So, I thought that was really important to include in there. And if you're wondering why the loser mentality gets you broke, is because, well, I'm not going to find the page, but it's basically losers are so afraid of losing money that they sell something after like a $10 gain, but will hang on to a losing position from a $20 to a $3 position just because they don't want to lose that money. They don't cut their losses and would rather keep their losing positions than cutting their losses and putting more into the winners. And I read that also in financial books of how to invest. So that's very much true. So if you've noticed yourself doing that, it's you have to change your way of thinking. So I think, one last part that I think I want to print out and hang up. And look at that toddler mark autograph by Sasha. Losers do something in life. Here we go. When the fear of losing money comes up, most people's mind automatically starts chanting security rather than freedom. Avoid risk rather than learning to manage risk. Play it safe rather than play it smart. I can't afford it rather than how can I afford it? It is too expensive rather than what is it worth long term? Diversify rather than focus. What will my friends think rather than what do I think? So that's what I wanted to cover real quickly out of the book. I think those are the most pertinent parts that I want to share, because I think this book is more for you to think about yourself. So it's, me. I would recommend reading this book if you want to know how to get into from employee or self-employed into business or investor. And it's all about, there's a great quote. So he said, to be in this quadrant, you don't need technical skills, you don't need education, and that's why so many people in this area, doctors, lawyers, those highly paid professionals are so kind of angry at these people, is because these people are largely uneducated, but they make more money than these people, right? So there's kind of a jealousy between the people that dropped out of college or high school, and yet they focus on this area of their life, and they make far more money than the people who are drafting it, purchase and sales agreements, or business merger acquisitions. So lawyers are I made them a billion-dollar business deal, and I'm getting paid scraps. So yeah, that mentality. Okay, and what was the last part? Anyway, that's what I want to add to this daily vlog. Oh, before I go, I almost skipped this part here. This is when he's talking about the unspoken battlefield between the educated and the rich. You can read this if you'd like. You can pause it. So it's basically, in my years researching the difference between the different quadrants, I often heard bankers, attorneys, accountants, and others like them grumble that they are the educated ones. And it's often the so-called less educated people who make the big bucks. And it came to that realization that I was highly educated but making small pennies. And my brother, who's who was essentially a car salesman for the longest time before he became general manager at Toyota, he's making far more money than me, and he was less than a stellar student. So I came to that realization, and instead of bitching and moaning about it, I decided to pull the trigger and go into sales. So basically that's all summed up there. But I didn't just get into this business just for the money. I also, because as we'll go into another, actually, am I going to attach it to this one? I think it's going to be attached to this one about the steps of success. And that's to do with, integrity, right? So it's also one of the things we're reading in the Miracle Morning is one of the affirmations is not to, always, we'll get to that. I'm not going to try to ramble it off right now, but I promise you we'll get to that in a second. And but here's what I want to cover, so sorry about that ramble. Here it says, as stated earlier, success in the B or I quadrants requires more than academic or technical knowledge. It often requires change in core emotional thinking, feelings, beliefs, and attitude. And remember, be, do, have. What the rich do is relatively simple. It's the be that is different. The difference is found in their thoughts, and more specifically, their internal dialogue. That's why my rich dad forbade me from saying, I can't afford it, I can't do it, play it safe, don't lose money. What? Okay, so for me, the B is become the person. So for me, as I mentioned before, Ryan Serhant, so I need to be, let's say, adopting everything that he's doing. That's my being, right? So to be successful, I'm going to be exactly like him. His attitude, his mindset, his daily habits, his work schedule, and everything. Obviously, my work schedule is different because I'm not running a billion-dollar sales business, but everything else there is so that it shapes my emotional thinking, beliefs, feelings, and attitude. Right? Everything else will follow if I adopt essentially his being. And then, of course, first is to become the people. That's why we're doing our affirmations. You're changing your attitudes and beliefs. You're also then going to be doing the actions required to get to where you can have, right? So just because you become, let's say, in your head somebody, so this is analysis by paralysis. You always get into the being stage, but you never get into the doing stage. You'll never get from here to there, right? You have to get into the doing stage, even if you're not perfect. That's why I'm doing these vlogs, just to get better. And that's the whole failure bit. Is the better you get at failing, the better you get at getting up. And if you realize that failure is just part of the success equation, the less you're going to hold yourself back and say, you know what, screw it. I don't care. I'm getting better. Failure is the best teacher. So that's the doing bit, and then once you get to that, then you'll have what you want. So if you have that perfect body, you have the car that you always wanted, you have the house that you've always wanted, you have the assets you always wanted, and you have the relationships that you always wanted. But first you have to be somebody else. Because if you're currently in a crappy mindset, or you have crappy habits, this is who needs to change first and foremost. Before you get into doing anything, you have to rewrite your software, or your habits, or your story, and to become somebody else. And Tony Robbins harps on this a lot too. It's about be. We're all in this stage in our life right now, is to become the person we need to be in order to do what we need to do, to have what we need to have. So before we get anywhere else, focus on the be.
Okay, the sixth, I want to say step again. I can't slap myself in the hand whenever I say step. The sixth condition to success is character. And I'm going to play a quick clip. It's only a couple seconds long. For some reason, the 6 and 7 are super brief versus the first 5. But it's completely important because it's something you can't really learn, but it's something you have to subscribe to.
6, we need a good character to guide us and keep us on proper course. In the 90s, people said, well, can a bad character have flamboyant success? I used to say, yeah, for a while, in a limited domain, at the expense of what really matters in life. Unethical success is always self-destructive. Well, you know what? Aristotle asked, what makes the world go round? You'd be surprised what he said. Salesmanship. Persuasiveness, rhetoric was the Greek word, the ability to convince another person to enter into a joint project that's of mutual benefit, without which world would be a war of every person against every other person. He said, I gotta figure out what it takes. He said it takes 3 things: logos, pathos, ethos. Logos, logic, information, reason, know what you're talking about. My dad in his real estate business would know everything about a house, a piece of land. He made a suggestion. People are thinking, well, this is coming from a guy who knows what he's talking about. But my dad, like Aristotle said, people aren't logic machines. You've got to be passionate. Pathos. My dad said, I got to understand my clients' passions. What keeps them awake at night? What do they love? What do they hate? What do they fear? If I know them on an emotional level, Tom, I can really help them. When my dad made a recommendation, people thought, this is coming from a guy who really understands me. That made him very persuasive. But my dad and Aristotle said ethos is the key from which we get ethics. You know what it meant in ancient Greek? It didn't mean rules, it meant character. It meant integrity. Aristotle said people are persuaded by people they trust. When my dad passed away 10 years ago, I want to tell you all, it was hard for me to lose my first philosophy teacher. He didn't go to college, but he was a natural-born philosopher. My house was full of books about Plato and Aristotle and Seneca, and I wondered, who are these people? My dad would tuck me into bed at night and give me a little piece of wisdom about the world. Y'all know the philosophers he named Socrates had a kid hang around with him every day named Plato. Plato had a shadow follow him everywhere he went named Aristotle. Socrates taught Plato, Plato taught Aristotle. Aristotle taught somebody pretty famous too. You know who it was? Alexander the Great. When he was just Alexander the Average, when he was 13 years old, but he became great. Through association with greatness, we become like the people we're around. I tell people all the time, apprentice yourself to a moral master, to a person with ethical integrity. Learn all you can, soak it up from a wise person down the street, across the hall, across town, and then pass it on to the people around you. My dad, 15, 16 people, the days after he died, approached me in Durham, North Carolina. Are you Tom Morris's son? Yes, I am. Your dad was a man of character. Your father had integrity. Your daddy was somebody I could always trust. I said, is that the way people are going to talk about me when I'm gone? If not, I'm not doing the most I can for them while I'm here.
I really liked that bit. I hope you liked it too. It really reinforces the way that I am approaching my business, because you don't have to be some sleazy dirtbag to get ahead in this world or to be a salesman, right? As proof, I mean, his example couldn't have been better because his dad was in real estate. So I'm glad I have something like that to look forward to. So the first one that he mentioned was logos, and that's essentially the knowledge and the wisdom that comes with being in the business for years and years. It also comes from doing what your clients are doing. So in the case of real estate investing, I'm doing it too. I have first-hand experience. I know exactly what it takes to fix the house, how much it costs, and I can pass my knowledge on to the people that want to have my help. The next thing was Pathos, which is, it almost sounds like compassion. I'm sure there's a root word in there somewhere. And if you're also in sales or not even in sales, this book was also read by, it sounds kind of underhanded, but it's not ninjas selling. It sounds like you're going to sneak up behind somebody and sneak them something. But this was sold to surgeons, just for bedside manners, to understand compassion. And essentially this book is teaching salespeople how to find compassion and how to help people with their pain and pleasure points, and like how to identify it and find out what they truly need. Sometimes people think they want one thing, but it turns out they want something completely different, but it's what they had in mind the whole time. And so your goal is not to sell them the easiest thing, but what they really need. And the last thing was ethics or ethos, which is something I have and that what I really pride myself on. So I'm glad this was something he covered, and hopefully it's exciting for you too, that it's an approach that you can also take and be successful in life.